Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Live Cuts. Premise of this series is to talk about a live album that doesn't get enough love or recognition. And today's live album is from one of the legendary punk bands of our lifetimes from New York City. I'm talking about the Ramones with their first live album released in April 1979 on Sire Records. It's Alive. This would be the last recording of the four original Ramones. The Ramones who recorded on this album were Joey Ramone on lead vocals, Johnny Ramone on guitars, Dee Dee Ramone on bass guitar and backing vocals, Tommy Ramone on drums. Tommy would also co-produce the album with Ed Stasium, and he would also co-produce their following studio album, also released in 1999 or 1979, called Road to Ruin, as well as their 1984 studio album, Too Tough to Die. He would also produce the Replacements' 1985 studio album, Tim. As with Ed Stasium, he has a pretty impressive resume. He has engineered or produced albums by such acts as The Talking Heads, Living Color, Jeff Healey Band, Biohazard, Motorhead, Reverend Horton Heat, and so many other legendary acts. So, this was recorded on the Rocket to Russia tour for that album. That was the third album that came out in 1977. This was going to be originally released. They were going to take the best recordings from the four shows on the UK tour in late 1977 and put them on this album. The fourth show, the last show of the tour, which was New Year's Eve 1977, was the superior performance to all the others. So they just put out the show from that night. 28 tracks, less than 55 minutes long. Best thing to see in a Ramones live. Fantastic. We have 28 songs on here that come from the self-titled debut, Leave Home, and Rocket to Russia. 24 were originals, 4 were cover songs of songs that were released in the 1960s that were all huge hit singles. Now, as for the original recordings of these songs, the tracks from the self-titled debut on here are Blitzkrieg Bop, Judy is a Punk, Chainsaw, Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue, Listen to My Heart, Havana Affair, Let's Dance, I Don't Want to Walk Around with You, and Today You Love, Tomorrow the World. From Leave Home, we have Glad to See You Go, Gimme Gimme Shock Treatment, Oh Oh I Love Her So, Susie's a Headbanger, Pinhead, Now I Want to Be a Good Boy, California Sun, Commando, and You're Gonna Kill That Girl. From Rocket to Russia, we have Cretin Hop, Rockaway Beach, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, I Don't Care, Sheena's a Punk Rocker, We're a Happy Family, Teenage Lobotomy, Do You Want to Dance, I Want to Be Well, and Surfing Bird. The 4 covers on here are Surfing Bird, which was originally a huge hit for the Trashmen, California Sun, which was originally a huge hit for the Rivieras, and that was featured prominently in the Oliver Stone movie, The Doors. I believe it was in the beach scene while the characters of Ray Manzarek and Jim Morrison start discussing what would be the band, The Doors. Do You Want to Dance was written by Bobby Freeman, and he would record that and make that a huge hit. And Let's Dance from Chris Montez would be a huge hit as well. You still hear the versions of California Sun and Let's Dance by the Rivieras and Chris Montez, respectively, on the 60s on 6 on Sirius XM. And the primary difference between those versions and what the Ramones did is the organ was really carrying the rhythms on those songs from the 60s, whereas the Ramones versions are punk. They made the songs their own. So, for this album, I'm not going to go and talk about comparing the studio and live versions. They're the same, pretty much. They have that same venom and vigor. They're still very, very tight and riveting. and played with a lot of attitude. And that's what you want with a punk album or a punk show. As I mentioned, this is the best thing to being at a Ramones show. And most of the tracks are very fast paced and hard hitting. The notable exceptions, I would say, on here are You're Gonna Kill That Girl, which is more in vein with 60s bubblegum pop with the dramatic, slower verses and the louder choruses. And the other track would be Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, the longest track on the album at 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Yes, a lot of the tracks on here are under the 2 minute mark. Here Today, Gone Tomorrow is a lot more mid tempo, a lot more moody, I would say, compared to the other songs on this album. Everything else pretty much just comes in, kicks your ass. The performances on here are magnificent. And a lot of people would say this is the best of the Ramones right here. The first three studio albums and Road to Ruin, the fourth album. Although Road to Ruin, they were getting a little more polished by that point. I was talking about how You're Gonna Kill That Girl was more like bubblegum pop, 60s bubblegum pop. The Ramones would go more into that direction of 60s bubblegum pop on Road to Ruin and End of the Century. And as the 80s went on, they would get a little more versatile. They go back to their punk leanings, but they'd also do some songs that were more hard rock, perhaps a little bit heavy metal, clearly a lot of bubblegum pop, because that was Joey Ramone's thing. But here, you just got a wicked, kick-ass live document from the Ramones tour in 1977. Another thing I'd like to talk about with the tracks here, and like I said, I'm not going to go over the differences, but you had the first forays here into the pop charts on this album as well, although in the studio versions. Sheena is a Punk Rocker was a number 66 hit. Well, not a hit, but almost a hit here in the United States. And I believe Rockaway Beach hit number 81 on a Hot 100. And those songs, along with several others here, they got really great pop hooks on here. I mean, these are punk songs, but they're not as angry as a lot of other punk bands out there. There's a lot of tongue in cheek, and they're singing about like horror movies, and they're talking a little bit about war, but not getting political, and relationships and things like that. But the songs are played with a lot of passion, and the crowd is all into it. Excellent, excellent live performance and live album here by the Ramones with It's Alive from April 1979. Now, what do you think of the Ramones music? Have you heard this album, It's Alive? And if you have, what do you think of it? What are your favorite songs by the Ramones or your favorite albums by the Ramones? Would you agree this is probably their best period, or do you like later albums like Subterranean Jungle or Pleasant Dreams or Too Tough to Die or Halfway to Sanity? Please let me know in the comments. And please also let me know if you'd like me to talk about any other live punk albums. I wanted to make this tight, just like a Ramones album. I thought not really go too deep into the tracks, especially with the fact that the songs are sticking so close to those originals. So thank you all so much for joining me today. Next week, I'll have Daniel Bosch on from Bicycle Legs Talks Music as we discuss Warren Zevon's live album, Stand in the Fire. So I hope you can join us then. Until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.